He would rather be sacrificed than surrender. That's what resentment and entitlement does to us. It convinces us that our choices are better than God's changes, that we have to be the one that controls our life. We say, God, we'll give you our life, but we need to stay the Lord of our life, and that's not the way it works. Isn't it interesting that these pagan sailors demonstrate more reverence for God than his own career prophet does? That should be a lesson for all of us about the dangers of feeling entitled to God's love and making it exclusive to us or people like us in a way that excludes it from others who are different than us. Jonah made that mistake, and we should be cautious not to make it ourselves. It's a sobering moment when Jonah's secret gets exposed, gets dragged out into the light. He's supposed to be God's voice, but the only way that the sailors ever hear about God is through Jonah's confession under pressure because of a storm they can't get out of. Some of us are praying for the storm in our life to stop, and God is using it to try and start something. You're saying, God, would you please take this away? And he's going, no, you don't know what I'm giving you through it on the other side. You're asking God to calm the waves, but he's using them to wake up your heart. What we call punishment, sometimes God is giving us mercy through because he loves us too much to let us sleep through our calling or to sleep through the assignment that God has placed in your life for the people that are around you. Maybe the chaos around you right now is not God's rejection, but his invitation to stop running, to stop pretending, to let him expose what needs to change so that he can bring you back to a vision of life he's always desired you to have. Here's the thing, man, though, God's mercy reveals what our denial conceals. Oftentimes, the thing that we think is a secret that nobody ever knows, that sickness of that secret that we think God is judging us by bringing to light, he's actually loving us by exposing it, by showing us that he still loves us, by showing us that there's still a path forward. The resentment, it didn't work for Jonah. The running, it didn't work for Jonah. And revealing was just getting started because revealing leads to releasing. We have to let some things go. And for Jonah, once he understands the stakes of his choices, he goes a little far with it, but he finally feels the weight of his choices. And so after some back and forth troubleshooting with Jonah, the sailors sort of are trying to figure out, how do we calm the sea? This thing's going to tear the boat apart. We don't have that much time. He finally tells them, just throw me into the sea. It's the only way that this is going to stop. Now, in this moment, we don't really know how far out they are, but we know that the Mediterranean Sea where they are at points is 10,000 feet deep. What Jonah is saying is, kill me. I will not survive. Jonah was so numb to the needs of others that he would rather drown than repent. He would rather sink into silence than speak the surrender that God was waiting for. He would rather be sacrificed than surrender. That's what resentment and entitlement does to us. It convinces us that our choices are better than God's changes, that we have to be the one that controls our life. We say, God, we'll give you our life, but we need to stay the Lord of our life, and that's not the way it works. But even there, in the place that Jonah thought was the end, God was already preparing a different beginning. The sailors are afraid of his God, and before they throw him in, they hedge their bets. It says, "O Lord, let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not on us innocent blood. For you, O Lord, have done as it pleased you." So they picked up Jonah and hurled him into the sea, and the sea ceased from its raging. Then the men feared the Lord exceedingly, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows. Did you catch that? This persnickety prophet who took this ship in order to reject God's call on his life has inadvertently created an evangelistic moment on a boat with pagan sailors who have never been exposed to God before. In order to run away from mission, God had mission waiting for him. They had never seen a storm like this before, and they had already thrown all the cargo that was going to pay for this out of the boat. The boat itself was going to need significant repair, but after the display of power in calming the sea, think like the biggest storm you've ever seen, to a sheet of glass, they couldn't help but be even more reverent to this God and worship him. I mean, think about that for a moment. When was the last time that you felt so overwhelmed by the mercy of God in your life that you worshiped? Maybe it's because of the goodness that God has done in your life. Maybe you've walked through something medically or circumstantially. Maybe you've seen a relationship turn around. Maybe you've seen God reach into the needs of others through your life that's been incredible, and you just go, God, I can't take credit for that. Maybe it's the goodness of God in the world that you can see how things could be so much worse, but God continues to show his grace in restraining our rebellion. The storm stopped the second that Jonah surrendered. And the same sea that was raging with chaos went still in an instant. That's what happens when you finally release control. What feels like death becomes the beginning of deliverance, even if your circumstances aren't instantly different. And look who worships first. Did you notice it? The only people that pray in Jonah chapter 1 are the pagan sailors. The only people who worship are the pagan sailors, the outsiders, the ones that Jonah refuses to believe that God could reach. Even in his rebellion, God is still redeeming. I think we're seeing some of this right now. People that we would have gone, well, how could God reach that person? How could God change that heart? And God's going, watch me.